Right.
There are definitely ways, in other words, to cope with this experience to make it a better one. And mine right now is making music. I mean, on the day that the Ukraine war broke out, I've never been so affected by any conflict. Never. You know, it was a reaction that I didn't see coming. And I think a lot of people have been kind of caught on the hop in that way. And I was trying to make music that day. I was in the middle of, I was just taking like a break, and I think I looked at the news and it said, yeah, it's starting. And it just messed with me to the point where I thought, well, I just can't create. I can't make happy music, and that's all I really want to do. And then I thought, wait, this is actually an opportunity to transmute my feelings into something. So given that the album I was working on was about being a different aspect version of myself off in the future, looking back on this time, I created a piece called The Distant Memory of War, in which this version of me is looking back at this moment and this conflict and how I feel now. But from that distance, it's all very attenuated. So it has this kind of sparse, ambient feel to it. And yet I know what it's about, and I know it was capturing the feelings that I had, and I felt purified on the other side of it. When I'd finished, it had just passed through me and allowed me, at least for that day, to cope. And that was, I think, my first real experience of what I would call art, which is that transmuting, that willful focus transmuting of experience into another form. And it was at that moment that I feel like I really understood the true power of art for the self, at least. I mean, and strangely, when I put the album out, you know, I shared it with friends, and the reaction I got, people kept coming back to me and saying, yeah, I really like The Distant Memory of War. And I was like, that's crazy. I mean, all the rest of the album is so put together. It's so, I mean, a lot of those tracks are 30 hours of tinkering and work and minute adjustments. But The Distant Memory of War happens in like maybe an hour, something like that, that I just found the sounds, and I found the feel, and I found the tempo. I found it all really quickly. So I can only take from that something in that reached them.
Yes.
And maybe they really understood what I was saying, and it touched something in them. It reflected something in them.
I wonder actually also because like with the creative process, it's like when you look at music, some of the finest music of the last few decades, and the bands will say, oh yeah, we toiled over this album, this track which has been there forever and everybody loves, we made it in about an hour. It's kind of like you're almost channeling this is what's supposed to go out, right? Dark Side of the Moon is something like that. They were brought together to create this beautiful piece of music, and everything like happens. So I think that the creative process is not necessarily, it's not a toil thing. It's kind of when it just happens, that's real. That's kind of connection to a higher self. It's connection to something that's allowing you to be a channel for something that you're creating.
That's the thing. That's the miracle. And it happens in so many ways. I mean, even when I was doing my books, I remember working on We Are the Disclosure, and 4 different people channeled in that, and I don't think any of them were aware. And I'll describe what happened. And I knew, I had that feeling, the pit of my stomach, that these people are all channeling. And when more and more and more were doing it, so what happened is they were chatting in the way that I am. It was a certain pitch, a certain frequency, a certain level, if you like. And then I'd ask them a certain thing, and they'd be chatting, and then there would be a pause, and the energy would go boom, and they would speak really slowly, really clearly, in perfect sentences, and give me a perfect paragraph. And then there would be a pause, and then it was like they came back into the room and blah, 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 blah. But those paragraphs were exquisite.
Yes.
And 4 different people, and I didn't tell them, but what was crazy is that the more it went on, the more I kept having those experiences, I started to open up to what that energy was as well, and have that feeling. Like, I do Reiki, and anyone doing Reiki or anything like it is familiar with the feeling of energy running through you, that something's coming through. And I believe that every artist knows it. And it's not just artists. There are any amount of examples historically, from artists, from musicians, from mathematicians, from chemists, from biologists, physicists, and so on and so on and so on, engineers and architects that dream these things, that suddenly get visions of things.
Yes.
And they go, oh, that's DNA. That's the DNA molecule, for example. And these people have said, I mean, I'm sure, I wish I had the quote from someone like Mozart, Beethoven. They said, I did not create this.
Yeah.
I was just a tool for this, you know.
A vessel.
A vessel, you know. And that is to me one of the most fun experiences I think that you can have, which is why one of the reasons I think that art is so beneficial is that it, in the right space, it turns each of us into a channel for what it could be anything. I mean, my good friend Faye Vale has been doing channeled artwork for years. We did a book together called E.T. as Artist. Faye Vale, check it out. You know, you can find her stuff on her website, social media, it's on Amazon, and all of that stuff. I've seen her do it. That is the most incredible channeling that I've ever seen. Basically, she goes into like a light trance and her hand just starts, it's like automatic drawing. And I was at her home one day and I was doing stuff on the computer, and I suddenly realized, because I was so focused on what I was doing, that it took me a moment to realize that her voice, she sounded almost like she was under hypnosis. So I turned to see what was going on, and sure enough, somehow she had a pad on her lap and her hand just moving, and she was able to talk about what was happening while it was happening, but as an observer. Yeah. Saying, you know, you can see, you know, my hand just has a life of its own, and I don't know what it's doing. I have no idea. And sometimes she doesn't even know what the image is until she turns it 90 degrees or 180. And she goes, oh my God. And the thing is literally created upside down. It's wild. Yeah. I absolutely believe that she is genuine and authentic. She's one of those people. She's from Leicester, and she just tells it like it is. There's no filigree, there's no nothing. It's just, here it is. And there's messages that come through, there's light language. Sometimes she has a back and forth with the being. She doesn't know who it is. She might ask for a name and write down some crazy bit of light language, or it could be a sort of English, an anglicized version of what that is, or how it sounds. And then sometimes there's just quotes that appear out of nowhere, and they are absolutely drenched in a kind of wisdom that I think most people can relate to. So to see somebody channeling in that way is the sort of reminder that I think all of us, when we slip into the flow state, that is the place in which we can connect and we can reconnect, we can channel. And I feel like in general, it is one of the most healthy things that there is. There was the guy who coined the term, I cannot pronounce his name, an Eastern European academic, was basically doing a study of what makes a life well lived. So he was interviewing people who, if I remember correctly, there's a great TED talk on it, were really high achievers. I mean, these are people at the tops of their fields, at the top of their fields. And he just kept hearing the same thing from all these people, that the best moments in the work are when they are sort of detached from the ordinary level of consciousness, and they slip into an altered state, in a sense. Their brain waves are functioning differently. They're in a different kind of brain state, and things come through them that are not necessarily just passed via the left brain.